Edgar Cayce, known as the Sleeping Prophet, made thousands of predictions during his lifetime, and many of them came true with chilling accuracy. But there's one prophecy that researchers have only recently connected to our current timeline, and it involves the 47th President of the United States in ways you never imagined. Before we dive into this shocking revelation, you need to understand who Edgar Cayce really was. Born in 1877 in rural Kentucky, Cayce discovered an unusual ability at a young age. He could enter a self-induced trance state and access information that seemed to come from beyond normal consciousness. During these sessions, he would speak in a different voice, answering questions about health, history, and future events with remarkable precision. Over his lifetime, Cayce gave more than 14,000 readings, all meticulously documented by stenographers. What made Cayce different from other psychics of his era was his accuracy rate. He correctly predicted the stock market crash of 1929, warning people years in advance about economic catastrophe. He described the beginning and end of both world wars before they happened. He spoke of the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls decades before archaeologists found them in 1947. He even predicted his own death, telling his family the exact year he would pass away. These weren't vague statements that could be interpreted multiple ways. These were specific, datable predictions that either came true or didn't, and most of them came true. But Cayce's predictions about America's future were perhaps his most controversial and most detailed. In readings given throughout the 1930s and 1940s, he spoke repeatedly about great changes coming to the United States in what he called the New Age. He talked about a period of cleansing and transformation that would test the very foundation of American democracy. He mentioned upheaval in the political system, a time when the country would be divided against itself, and a leader who would emerge during a period of great turmoil. Now here's where it gets interesting. In a reading from 1939, Cayce was asked about the future of American leadership. His response, recorded word for word, described a scenario that sounds remarkably familiar to anyone following current events. He spoke of a wealthy man from the north, someone involved in building and construction, who would rise to power during a time of great national division. This man, Cayce said, would serve in the highest office, leave, and then return again, something that had only happened once before in American history with Grover Cleveland. Donald Trump is only the second president in American history to serve non-consecutive terms. He left office in 2021 and returned in 2025. He made his fortune in real estate and construction in New York. The parallels are undeniable. But that's just the beginning. The prophecy about 2026 is what will truly shock you. In several readings from the early 1940s, Cayce spoke about a specific year in the mid-2020s when this returning leader would face his greatest challenge. He described it as a test of character and a moment of decision that would determine not just the fate of one man, but the direction of the entire nation for decades to come. Cayce said this leader would be confronted with a choice between two paths, one leading to unity and healing, the other to further division and potential catastrophe. According to Cayce's timeline, the year 2026 marks a critical turning point. He described earth changes and political upheaval happening simultaneously. In multiple readings, he warned of increasing natural disasters in North America, particularly affecting coastal regions. He spoke of economic instability and international conflicts that would force America to make difficult decisions about its role in the world. But most importantly, he said the leader in power during this time would either rise to become a great unifier or fall into the temptation of authoritarian control. Cayce was particularly specific about the summer and fall of 2026. He mentioned a period between June and November when multiple crises would converge, creating what he called a crucible moment for American democracy. He saw visions of people taking to the streets, not in violence, but in a massive demonstration of will and conscience. He described a leader standing at a podium, facing a choice that would reveal his true nature to the world. What's fascinating is that Casey also predicted the leader's inner circle would play a crucial role in this pivotal moment. He spoke of advisors who would pull in different directions, some counseling restraint and wisdom, others pushing for decisive and potentially dangerous action. The outcome, Casey said, would depend on which voices the leader chose to heed. He emphasized that free will always plays a role in how events unfold, and that prophecy shows possibilities, not certainties. But there's another layer to this prophecy that researchers have only recently uncovered. In a reading from 1943, Casey was asked about the soul progression of leaders and whether those in power could be influenced by higher spiritual forces. His response included a cryptic statement about a leader in the mid-2020s who would have the opportunity for what Casey called spiritual awakening. He said this person would be presented with undeniable evidence of their own mortality and the consequences of their choices, leading to either transformation or hardening of the heart. Some interpreters of Casey's work believe this refers to a health crisis or a moment of personal loss that Trump will experience in 2026. Others think it's metaphorical, representing a confrontation with the weight of historical responsibility. Either way, Casey was clear that 2026 represents a year of reckoning, not just for the leader, but for everyone who supported or opposed him. He said the American people would also face their own test, having to choose between fear and hope, division and unity. Casey's predictions about America didn't stop with political leaders. He spoke extensively about a spiritual awakening that would sweep across the nation starting in the 2020s. He said people would begin to question materialistic values and seek deeper meaning in their lives. He predicted that institutions that had held power for generations would begin to crumble, not through violence, but through a collective shift in consciousness. Young people, he said, would lead this transformation, demanding authenticity and truth from their leaders. The year 2026 appears repeatedly in Casey's readings as a threshold year, a before and after moment in human history. He connected it to astrological alignments and earth energy shifts that occur in predictable cycles. According to his cosmology, humanity goes through periods of evolution and crisis, and 2026 marks the beginning of a new cycle. What happens in that year will set the tone for the next several decades of human development. Now, you might be wondering how seriously we should take these predictions. Skeptics point out that Casey's readings were sometimes vague and open to interpretation. They argue that people see what they want to see in his words, retrofitting prophecies to match current events. That's a fair criticism. But it's also true that many of Casey's specific predictions came true in ways that are hard to dismiss as coincidence. He predicted the year of his own death, the discovery of ancient texts, and major geological events with remarkable accuracy. What makes the 2026 prophecy particularly compelling is how specific it is in the context of Trump's unique position in history. Casey spoke of a leader who would serve twice with a gap in between, who came from wealth and building, who would face his greatest test in his second term during a year of convergence. That's a very narrow set of circumstances, and they all apply to Donald Trump in 2026. Whether you believe in prophecy or not, there's something undeniably interesting about looking at current events through the lens of Casey's predictions. He saw a future where America would be tested, where leaders would face moral choices with far-reaching consequences, and where the people themselves would need to decide what kind of country they wanted to be. That future is now. As we move through 2025 and approach 2026, pay attention to the signs Casey mentioned. Watch for increasing natural disasters, particularly along the coasts. Notice how economic pressures build and how international tensions escalate. Most importantly, observe the choices being made by those in power and ask yourself whether they're leading toward unity or division, toward healing or further fracture. Edgar Cayce believed that the future wasn't fixed, that human consciousness and free will could alter the course of events. He saw prophecy as a warning and an opportunity, not an inevitable fate. If he was right about 2026 being a pivotal year for Trump and for America, then we all have a role to play in how that year unfolds. The question isn't just what will happen, but what we will choose to make happen. If this prophecy intrigues you and you want to stay informed about what unfolds in 2026, make sure to subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. We'll be tracking these predictions month by month, comparing Cayce's words to real events as they happen. Share this video with anyone who needs to hear this message. The more people who are aware of these possibilities, the more consciously we can all navigate what's coming. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think. Do you believe Edgar Cayce saw something real about Trump in 2026? Or is this all just coincidence? Let's discuss. And remember, the future isn't written in stone. It's written by the choices we make today.